The Memory Weavers, complete alien saga. The memory sanctum stretched endlessly in all directions, its crystalline walls containing the preserved experiences of 10,000 civilizations. Thyss'ara floated in the central chamber, her elongated form suspended in the bioluminescent fluid that connected her consciousness to the vast network of preserved memories. Her species, the Memory Weavers, had evolved beyond the need for individual recollection. Instead, they shared the collective experiences of entire galactic communities, becoming living libraries of consciousness itself. Through her neural interfaces, cascading streams of silver hair that moved like liquid mercury, Thyss'ara could access any memory in the archive. The first kiss between star-crossed lovers from the Vega system. The final thoughts of a warrior philosopher from the Crab Nebula as he faced an impossible choice. The discovery of faster-than-light travel by a species that had gone extinct before humans learned to make fire. All of it lived within her consciousness, available at the speed of thought. But today, something was wrong. She sensed it first as an absence. Gaps in the flow of memory that shouldn't exist. Entire civilizations that she remembered accessing yesterday were simply gone, as if they had never existed at all. The singing cities of Proxima 7, whose crystalline architecture had harmonized with solar winds to create music that could be heard across star systems. The dreaming collective of the Horsehead Nebula, who had learned to share consciousness through quantum-entangled sleep. The builders of the Great Ring, whose massive construction projects had reshaped entire sectors of space, all erased, not destroyed, that would leave traces, fragments of memory that spoke of loss and ending. These civilizations had been edited out of existence so completely that only her enhanced consciousness retained any awareness of what had been removed. Thyss'ara of the Memory Weavers, the voice resonated through the sanctum's bioacoustic systems, carrying the temporal distortions that marked a Chronarch speaker. We require immediate consultation on a matter of galactic significance. She withdrew from the memory streams, her consciousness condensing back into her physical form as the bioluminescent fluid drained away. The Chronarch representative materialized in the chamber, a being whose body existed across multiple time streams simultaneously, appearing as a shifting overlay of past, present, and future selves. Honored Keeper Velthis, she acknowledged, using the formal address for a Chronarch of their rank. I was about to contact the temporal monitoring station. We have a crisis in the memory archive. Velthis's temporal forms aligned momentarily, indicating intense focus. The crisis extends beyond your archive. We are detecting massive disruptions in the causal timeline. Entire historical events are being retroactively prevented, creating paradox cascades that threaten the stability of spacetime itself. The implications hit Thyss'ara like a physical blow. If someone was not just erasing memories but actively preventing the events that created those memories, they were fundamentally altering the structure of reality. History itself was under attack. Who has the power to rewrite causality on this scale? She asked, her silver hair writhing with agitation as it interfaced with the sanctum's systems, searching for patterns in the erasures. That is what we must discover, Velthis replied, their multiple temporal selves flickering with uncertainty. But we are not the only ones affected. The Verdani report that their collective plant consciousness is experiencing what they describe as species amnesia. Entire ecosystems they remember nurturing have vanished from their genetic memory. The Codex entities claim that fundamental mathematical constants are being altered, rewriting the basic laws that govern information storage. A team was assembling, Thyss'ara realized, representatives of the galaxy's most consciousness-dependent species, beings whose existence was so tied to memory, time, and information that they would be the first to detect reality manipulation. She accessed the archive's communication networks, sending her agreement to join the investigation. The rendezvous took place aboard the Probability Garden, a Verdani bioship that existed as a living ecosystem rather than a mechanical construct. Its hull was composed of interconnected plant matter, trees whose roots formed structural supports, vines that served as data conduits, and flowering organs that functioned as sensors and weapons. The ship's consciousness was distributed across millions of plant minds, creating a collective intelligence that could process information in ways no individual species could match. Thyss'ara's quarters were a grove of memory fruit trees, their bioluminescent pods containing concentrated experiences that she could absorb for sustenance. The fruits tasted like liquid nostalgia, each one carrying the preserved emotions of moments from across the galaxy. Her teammates were as exotic as their abilities suggested. Velthus occupied a temporal chamber where past, present, and future coexisted, allowing them to perceive causality as a navigable dimension. The Verdani representative, a being called Root Singer Malthus, existed as a mobile forest, a collection of ambulatory plants that could separate and recombine as needed, their consciousness flowing through root networks and pheromone clouds. The Codex entity was the most alien of all, a crystalline lattice of pure information that had achieved consciousness through mathematical complexity. It existed as living data, its thoughts taking the form of geometric patterns that rewrote themselves in response to new information. It communicated through direct information transfer, concepts appearing in the minds of others as fully formed understanding rather than words. The pattern of erasures is systematic, the Codex entity transmitted, its crystalline form pulsing with computational activity. The targeted civilizations share specific characteristics: advanced consciousness research, dimensional manipulation technology, or historical significance to galactic development. Someone is not randomly destroying memories, but carefully editing galactic history to remove specific elements. Root Singer Malthus released a cloud of analytical pheromones, their mobile forests shifting into a configuration optimized for collective processing. Our root networks remember the singing cities. Though the memory grows fainter with each passing moment, the erasure is not instantaneous. It spreads like a disease through the information substrate of reality itself. Velthus flickered between temporal states, their multiple selves conferring across time. We have detected the source of the disturbances, a region of space designated as the null zone, where our temporal sensors register not empty space, but absent time. Someone has created a pocket of reality where causality itself has been suspended. The journey to the null zone took them through regions of space where the effects of historical erasure were becoming visible. They passed star systems where entire planets showed signs of impossible evolution, worlds that had developed complex ecosystems without any evolutionary predecessors, civilizations that possessed advanced technology without any record of how they had acquired it. Reality is becoming self-contradictory, Thyss'ara observed, her consciousness interfacing with the ship's plant-based memory systems. Without the historical foundations that these erasures have removed, current events no longer make logical sense. If this continues, causality itself will collapse. The Probability Garden's biosensors detected their destination before conventional instruments could register it. A region of space that didn't exist in any normal sense. Through the ship's organic viewing organs, they could see a structure that hurt to perceive directly, a massive construct that seemed to exist in the gaps between moments, visible only in the spaces between thoughts. The Oblivion Citadel, the Codex entity identified, its crystalline form resonating with data patterns that match theoretical models, a structure designed to exist outside normal causality, allowing its occupants to edit reality without being affected by their own changes. As they approached the impossible structure, they encountered its guardians, beings that Thyss'ara's enhanced memory immediately recognized as corrupted versions of known species. Chronarch, whose temporal abilities had been twisted to create causal loops that trapped their victims in repeating moments of death. Verdani, whose plant networks had been infected with forgetting spores that made their victims lose all memory of their own existence. Memory weavers, whose consciousness had been inverted, turning them into living voids that consumed experiences rather than preserving them. They're not just erasing civilizations, she realized with horror. They're turning members of our own species into weapons against memory itself. The battle that followed was fought on multiple levels simultaneously. Physical combat occurred in normal space, while temporal battles raged across past and future timelines. And informational warfare played out in the mathematical foundations of reality itself. The corrupted beings attacked not just with conventional weapons, but with erasure itself, strikes that removed their targets from existence rather than simply destroying them. Thyss'ara found herself facing a corrupted version of her own species, a memory weaver whose silver hair had turned black as the void between stars. Instead of preserving experiences, this being consumed them, its touch erasing not just memories, but the events that had created those memories. "You cling to the past," the corrupted weaver spoke, its voice carrying the weight of forgotten eons. "But the past is chaos, contradiction, suffering. We offer order, a clean timeline where only perfection remains. Without the past, there is no present," Thyss'ara replied, her consciousness expanding to access the full power of the memory archive. "Without memory, there is no identity. You're not creating perfection, you're creating emptiness. The personal battle became a conflict between preservation and erasure, between the value of flawed history and the appeal of perfect emptiness. Through her neural interfaces, Thyss'ara channeled the memories of every erased civilization, giving them form and substance in the present moment. The singing city's crystal harmonies rang through space, while the dreaming collective's shared consciousness provided strength to her allies. Root singer Malthus revealed the full power of the Verdani collective, their plant consciousness spreading across the battle zone like a living web that connected all participants. Through this network, the team could share not just information but actual experiences, allowing them to coordinate with a precision that no individual consciousness could achieve. Velthus deployed their temporal abilities to create causal shields, protecting the team from erasure attacks by anchoring their existence across multiple time streams. The Codex entity rewrote local information structure, creating zones where memory and data were reinforced against deletion. But their true enemy revealed itself when they penetrated the Oblivion Citadel, not a single being, but a collective consciousness calling itself the Eternal Moment. It was composed of members from dozens of species who had become convinced that the progression of time and the accumulation of history were fundamental errors in the universe's design. We have seen the end of all things. The Eternal Moment spoke through 1,000 voices that harmonized across temporal boundaries. In every possible future, consciousness leads to suffering, growth creates conflict, and diversity breeds chaos. We offer the only rational solution: to edit history until only the perfect moment remains, eternal and unchanging. The philosophical horror of their goal became clear. The Eternal Moment wasn't just erasing specific civilizations. They were working toward a universe with only a single moment of existence, a reality frozen in what they considered perfection. No growth, no change, no future, just one eternal instant of their choosing. You would trade all possibility for the illusion of perfection, Thyss'ara accused, her consciousness expanding to encompass the memories of every being who had ever lived and died. But perfection without growth is not life. It's death dressed up in beautiful lies. The final confrontation took place in the space between moments, where the Eternal Moment had built their reality-editing apparatus. It was a device of impossible complexity, part machine and part living consciousness, that could reach across time to prevent events from occurring while they were still possibilities rather than actualities. The battle was not won through force, but through memory itself. Thyss'ara realized that the Eternal Moment's power came from their certainty that their vision of perfection was superior to the chaos of natural existence. But they had isolated themselves from new experiences, cutting themselves off from the very diversity they sought to eliminate. Using her connection to the memory archive, she began to share experiences they had never known. The joy of discovery, the beauty of unplanned moments, the strength that came from overcoming adversity. For beings who had spent eons focused only on what they considered the perfect instant, the full spectrum of consciousness was overwhelming. One by one, members of the Eternal Moment began to remember why existence was worth preserving. They recalled their own species' histories, the struggles and triumphs that had led to their consciousness, the relationships and discoveries that had given their lives meaning. The apparatus began to malfunction as its operators lost their unified focus, their certainty cracking under the weight of rediscovered memory. "We remember now," one of them whispered, their voice carrying the weight of recovered history. "We remember what we were trying to perfect and why it was already perfect in its imperfection." As the reality editing apparatus shut down, the erased civilizations began to restore themselves. Not perfectly. Some memories remained lost, some historical details had been permanently altered, but the fundamental structure of galactic history reasserted itself. The singing city's harmonies rang out across space once more, while the dreaming collective's shared consciousness resumed its patient watch over the Horsehead Nebula. But the victory came with a cost. The process of restoration required someone to serve as an anchor point, a consciousness stable enough to hold the returning memories as they reintegrated with reality. Thyss'ara volunteered, her enhanced awareness allowing her to serve as a temporary repository for the experiences of entire civilizations. The process nearly destroyed her consciousness. For a brief moment, she was every being who had ever lived in the erased civilizations, experiencing their births, lives, loves, losses, and deaths simultaneously. Her individual identity almost dissolved under the weight of so much shared experience. It was her teammates who saved her. Root singer Malthus extended their plant consciousness to help distribute the memory load, while Velthus created temporal stability fields that prevented her consciousness from being scattered across history. The Codex entity provided informational structure that helped organize the returning memories into coherent patterns. When the restoration was complete, Thyss'ara found herself fundamentally changed. She had always been able to access preserved memories, but now she carried within her consciousness the living experiences of billions of beings. She was no longer just a memory weaver. She was a living chronicle of galactic consciousness itself. The threat is ended, Velthus observed, their temporal form stabilizing as causality reasserted its normal flow. But the knowledge of what we face serves as a warning. The temptation to edit reality to match our preferences is a danger that all advanced civilizations must face. Root singer Malthus released spores of remembrance into space, carrying genetic memories of the crisis to plant networks across the galaxy. Our root systems will remember and teach future generations to value the imperfect beauty of natural growth over the sterile perfection of designed existence. The Codex entity pulsed with new information patterns, its consciousness expanded by exposure to the full spectrum of galactic memory. The mathematical beauty of diversity has been reaffirmed. Complexity arising from chaos is more elegant than simplicity imposed through force. As they returned to their respective homes, Thyss'ara reflected on the philosophical implications of their victory. The memory archive had been restored, but it now carried new entries, the experiences of the crisis itself, and the knowledge that history was not a fixed record, but a living thing that required constant protection. The galaxy's civilizations resumed their complex dance of cooperation and conflict, growth and decay, triumph and tragedy. It was messy, unpredictable, and sometimes painful, but it was real. And in the end, Thyss'ara realized reality was always more beautiful than any design perfection could ever be. In the depths of the memory sanctum, new crystalline chambers grew to house the recovered histories. Each one pulsed with the life experiences of beings who had been temporarily erased from existence, but who had fought their way back through the power of preserved memory. Their stories would be told again, their experiences shared, their contributions to galactic consciousness restored. The memory weavers had done more than preserve the past. They had proven that the past was worth preserving, with all its imperfections and contradictions. And in the vast network of consciousness that connected all thinking beings across the galaxy, new memories were being formed every moment, adding their voices to the eternal song of existence. The universe continued its ancient dance of creation and destruction, order and chaos, memory and forgetting. But now it danced with the knowledge that every moment was precious precisely because it was imperfect, every consciousness valuable because it was unique, and every memory sacred because it could never be exactly duplicated. In the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Not the defeat of the eternal moment, but the reaffirmation that existence itself, in all its beautiful, chaotic, imperfect glory, was worth remembering.